There are wounds that don't shed blood, but they shatter the entire foundation of your life. It's invisible, but you can feel it in your chest every time you try to sleep with swollen eyes and a heavy heart. That wound doesn't come from a stranger, not from an enemy, not from someone you've ever hated, but from someone you used to call with the gentlest tone, someone you allowed to enter the most fragile point in your life. The person in front of whom you opened all the layers of yourself, even when you yourself didn't know how to love yourself. You thought you had found home. You thought that after all the past wounds, the universe was finally kind enough to send someone to heal you. You loved them not just with hope, but with a soul you had stitched back together just to be able to welcome them. But somehow, all of that turned into a weapon that turned back to hurt you. The deeper your love, the deeper the wound you received. And the most painful thing, they didn't even realize it. Or more cruelly, they realized it, but didn't care. Then you started to falter. You started to question yourself. Were you loving too much? Did you choose the wrong heart to trust? Yet behind all that chaos, there's something quieter, darker, and more primal. Something you can't explain with logic, but you know is real, because you feel it. A strange inner pull, that this wound is not just an event, but a message. And in the deepest silence, when you can no longer pretend to be strong, a soft but firm whisper emerges. What does all this mean? It's not just a question about love, but about who you truly are behind all this pain, about whether true love saves or destroys to reshape you from the ground up. Because it could be, this pain you're experiencing is not a betrayal of love, but a soul's initiation. And when you realize that truth, you will never see wounds the same way again. But to get there, you have to go deeper. Because behind that wound lies a door to an inner awakening that not everyone dares to open. And now, that door is in front of you. Are you ready to open it? One, love doesn't choose logically, it pulls energetically. True love, the kind that touches the deepest corners of the soul, is not born from a long list of expectations. It doesn't submit to logical formulas, doesn't choose based on lifestyle compatibility, social status, or even shared beliefs. Love is resonance. It is a silent pull between two energy fields that have touched each other in the past, or have promised to meet in the future. Often, the person who makes you fall in love the deepest is the person you least expect. It doesn't make sense. It's illogical, but you can't resist, because there's something in their vibration that calls to the deepest part of you. Not their beauty, not their intelligence, but the vibration of a wound that feels so familiar. Yes, a wound. We don't just fall in love with someone's smile. We fall in love with the inner resonance that is created when an unhealed wound within us meets an unfinished wound within them. You might love them because they seem strong. But deep down, maybe you love them because they display a strong side that you yourself have never possessed. Or you love them because they seem loving, even though deep inside, you still carry childhood wounds from never being truly loved gently. Love becomes a magnet, but wounds become its fuel. And that's where it all begins, from an invisible pull that makes you want to be closer, deeper, more whole. But the closer you get, the more parts of yourself are exposed. The deeper you love, the deeper the dark sides that also surface. And when you're not aware that this isn't ordinary love, you'll assume you're being hurt, even though perhaps you are being called to face yourself. True love calls you not to enjoy, but to grow, and true growth never happens in comfort. Then the question is no longer, why am I hurt? But what What is this wound trying to show me? Because it could be, the person you love the most is present not to complete you, but to dismantle the illusions you've always believed about yourself. But what exactly does this kind of love dismantle? What does it touch that makes you feel shattered from within? We will delve deeper, to the place where hidden old wounds find their door. 2. Old wounds find their door. We all carry wounds, from childhood, from family, from experiences of being rejected, misunderstood, ignored, or not loved fully. And those wounds don't just disappear, they just wait for the right time to resurface. And there is no trigger more powerful than love. The person you love is a mirror. And because you are so close to them, they become the most honest reflection of the unwhole parts of yourself. When they ignore you, you feel angry not because of them, but because you were once ignored and that hasn't healed. When they don't validate your feelings, you feel shattered because you once lived in an environment that never acknowledged your emotions. When they choose to leave, you feel abandoned like you were once left without explanation by someone who should have stayed. They replay all the fragments of unfinished wounds. And you don't know where that pain comes from. You just feel crushed, even though they only said one cold sentence. Or you feel like you're dying, even though they only didn't reply to your message as quickly as usual. Because this kind of love isn't about the present, but about the subconscious door that is wide open. A door that has been tightly closed all this time. But now, it's opened by an unexpected key. Love. That's why the pain from the person you love feels so immense. Because you're not just losing them. You are forced to meet again with all the losses you've ever experienced, which you've buried all this time to survive. But this is a sacred moment. A moment when the universe says, you are strong enough now to heal this. And love, in its most mysterious form, chooses to appear as a destroyer of illusions, so that you can start building a new truth within yourself. No longer the truth about how you are unworthy of love, but the truth that you are wounded, and it's time to recover. However, to be able to recover, you need to know who is actually present in your life. Why does it feel like a destined encounter? Why do you feel like you can't let go, even though you know this relationship hurts you? Perhaps this is not an ordinary encounter. Perhaps this is a call from long before you were born. And that's what we will unravel in the next chapter. 3. Soul contract. Who sent them to you? There's a feeling that can't be explained by an ordinary meeting. There's an illogical vibration when you look into their eyes for the first time and your heart instantly knows, I've known you before. Not an ordinary acquaintance. Not just falling in love, but like finding a fragment of yourself that has been lost for who knows how long. Such a relationship is not just a coincidence. In the journey of the soul, this is known as a soul contract, an agreement made in the realm before birth, a sacred promise between two consciousnesses, two energies, two souls, to play an important role in each other's awakening. But don't imagine this contract as romantic as a fairy tale. It's not a guarantee of happiness. On the contrary, often it comes in the form of beautiful chaos, in the form of wounds that awaken, in the form of losses that make you realize, because the soul doesn't seek comfort, the soul seeks growth. And the most powerful growth is often wrapped in the deepest pain. Perhaps you ask, then why him, her? Why not someone gentler, more loyal, more understanding? The answer lies in the vibration that cannot be faked. Only they can open the parts of you that have long been locked away. Only they can touch the most primal wounds you carry from childhood, from family trauma, even from past lives. They come like cracked mirrors. Maybe their faces are beautiful or handsome. Maybe their words are full of hope. But slowly, They show you the shadows you fear the most. Your insecurities, your doubts, your attachments. And when you start to wonder, what's wrong with me? That's when the soul contract begins to work. It doesn't come to blame. It comes to open your eyes. That person wasn't sent to be the ideal partner. They were sent to be a reminder that you are not yet whole, that you are still dependent, that you are still looking outside for what you should find within. And when the moment of devastation comes, whether through betrayal, rejection, or departure, that's the turning point. Because in true spirituality, heartbreak is not the end of love, but the beginning of awareness. The soul came, fulfilling its promise. It played its role, perhaps as a lover, perhaps as the one who inflicts pain. But it came for one thing, to guide your soul back to the light you forgot. And now, you stand at the threshold of a big question. Will you remain bound to their story? Or are you ready to take back your power and write a new story for your own soul? Because remember, a soul contract doesn't have to be continued in the form of a relationship that is constantly maintained. Sometimes a soul contract just wants you to wake up and then walk on your own. But if letting go feels so painful. 4. When you are attached to a love that is changing. There is nothing more painful than holding on to something that is changing. You know they are no longer the same. Their gaze is cold. Their touch is bland. Their words no longer give life as they used to. But you still stay. You still hope. You still beg the universe for them to return to the version of themselves you knew. But true love never promises eternity in form. It only promises honesty in feeling. We grow up in an illusion that love must possess, that good relationships are those that last forever, that if someone loves you, they will never change. But in reality, everything that lives will continue to move. People change, feelings change, even you change. What you once considered forever has now become a source of tears you swallow silently every night. Not because you are weak, but because you are rejecting a fundamental law of the universe. Everything changes. And the most painful thing is when you are attached to memories, not reality. You fell in love with a past version of them, and you forget that they are no longer the same person. But you still bind yourself to a version that no longer exists. You say, "But they used to be so caring." You whisper, "But they once said they would always be here." But you forget that life isn't about used to be, but about the present. And in the present, you are holding onto a shadow you created yourself and then believed to be reality. And that's why you are hurt. Not because they are bad, but because you are unwilling to let reality shatter your dreams. You say you love them, but actually, you love the security you felt with them. You love the hope, not the reality. And love born from the fear of losing is not love. It's just attachment wrapped in poetry. Letting go doesn't mean not loving. Letting go means you love enough not to force them to be someone they are no longer. Because love, without freedom, is just a prison built from fear. And if you keep forcing a changing love to stay the same, you are not loving that person. You are just trying to maintain your comfort zone. But that comfort zone has now become a grave for your own soul. You have to ask, what am I holding on to? Love or fear? And when you start to see reality without the filter of nostalgia, you begin to understand that letting go is the highest form of love. But how? How can you love without binding? What if your heart still wants to be with them, but your soul knows that you must continue the journey alone? So, what if all of this isn't about them, but about the wounds within you that are asking to be fully embraced? That is the question we will face in the next chapter. Don't go anywhere. Because in the next chapter, you will realize that everything that hurts you is actually showing you the door to your true strength. 5. Transforming wounds into soul power. There's a moment only those who've been truly shattered can understand. A moment when you look at yourself in the mirror and barely recognize who you see there. Swollen eyes, an empty heart, and a question that keeps spinning without an answer. Why did all this have to happen to me? But wait a minute. 8. What makes wounds so painful? Not just because of loss, but because we feel betrayed by the hopes we built ourselves. Because we were so sure that love would save us. But it turns out, it's from love that the deepest wounds are born. But this is where the spiritual paradox occurs, because at that moment, when you've truly fallen to the deepest point, you're also in the closest position to the core of your own soul. Pain is an alarm, not to tell you to give up, but to make you realize that there's a part of yourself that you've never fully embraced. And love wounds, in their most brutal way, will drag you to that place. You'll be forced to face the inner wounds from childhood. The feeling of being rejected, unappreciated, not enough. Wounds that you thought you'd buried turned out to be just sleeping, waiting for a moment to rise. And that moment comes through love. So at this point, you have two choices: to be a victim or to be a walker. If you choose to be a victim, you'll continue to live in the old narrative. I was hurt, I'm not worthy of love, I'm always abandoned. The world will feel like a cruel place, and love will feel like a curse. But if you choose to be a walker, someone who's willing to take the path of awareness, then the wound changes its function. The wound becomes a gateway, an initiation, a phase of transformation, like the dark night of the soul, which opens access to the deepest power that has been locked all this time. Behind every wound lies extraordinary spiritual power. The power to become aware, the power to stop seeking validation from outside, the power to love yourself, not from ego, but from complete acceptance. And this is the time for you to learn to no longer treat wounds by hoping that person will come back, but to start treating wounds by returning to yourself. The love that you use to direct at other people, you now channel to embrace the parts of yourself that you've ignored all this time. The part of yourself that feels not good enough. The part that's too afraid of being abandoned. The part that feels unworthy of love. All those parts are just waiting for you to say, I'm here. I won't leave you again. We'll go home together. And when you truly embrace all your pain, not by rejecting it, but by taking it home, that's when the moment of true change begins. You're no longer the same person. The energy you used to use to beg him, her to stay, you now direct to build yourself up. The energy you used to spend asking, why am I not enough for him, her, you now change into, how can I love myself unconditionally? This is the turning point. From here, you start attracting people not because you need them, but because you choose them, without dependence, without fear, and magic begins to happen. Because the universe doesn't give what you chase. It gives who you are at this moment. When you're still wounded and feeling lacking, you'll attract people who confirm that lack. But when you start to become whole, not perfect, but whole in awareness, the universe sends new relationships that reflect the best version of your soul. Not to fill the emptiness, but to share the light that has been found. So stop asking, when will I be healed? Start asking, what is this wound teaching me? Because it could be, this wound isn't about him, her, but about a soul that wants to show your true self, which has been hidden behind fear all this time. And if you dare to go deeper, you will realize that the person who hurt you the most has actually opened the door that you've been afraid to open all this time. the door to your soul's wildest, most honest, and freest power. But wait a minute. If you think that all this is about healing and being okay, you haven't seen the next chapter. Because the soul doesn't come just to heal, the soul comes to liberate. And for that, you have to learn one more thing. How to love unconditionally, without fear, without binding. How to love from a place of wholeness, not lack. That's what we'll find in the next series. So, if you've made it to this part, I want you to know one thing. You are not alone. There are millions of other souls out there who are trying to rearrange their scattered hearts. They are also looking for meaning behind the wounds, light behind the darkness, meaning behind the departure. And maybe you are one of those chosen to rise first, to become a small light that will later illuminate the path of others. That's why you were hurt so deeply. That's why the universe shook you so hard. Not to punish you, but to awaken you. Don't run from your pain. Look at it, embrace it, listen to its message. Because the pain you're experiencing today can be medicine for someone in the future who's also losing hope. That's why Wisdom Path is here, to walk with you, to accompany your steps, to remind you that behind every destruction, there's an awakening waiting. If this video touches your soul, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on the notification bell because there will be a further journey, a journey that will take you to the depths of the soul you've never touched before. And if you have friends, siblings, or someone who's facing love wounds, send them this video. Who knows? This message is the bridge they need to survive tonight, because sometimes one sentence can save a soul. See you in the next episode. Keep walking. Stay aware, because only those who don't stop will eventually reach their true home. Take care of your soul, because that's where it all begins.